Welcome to Matt and Matt's first market update of 2024, and we've been looking at some statistics provided by 20EA, who are an independent data gatherer of estate agents. Matt here has been trolling through the data, and we're ready for some stat attack.
I'll tell you what, there's some interesting stats there. I was going to be a bit boring and look at my diary and then read them out at the same time, but at least it will give you an idea. So what I've looked at, just to put into context, is the top 10 estate agents in Wokingham, which thankfully we are part of, which is always nice. I've looked at a couple of key stats which have been really sort of quite prevalent and conversation topics for most sellers last year and into this year. And I've gone for the last year's worth of data rather than the last 3 months because we would have sort of had Christmas to try and factor into that. So anyway, I've looked at sold subject to contract. So these are the people that have put their houses onto the market and they have either sold or not sold, not exchanged, but this is where they've been able to agree a price. Now, we are looking at the best agent out there, which I'm happy to confirm is us, obviously, because otherwise we wouldn't be talking about it otherwise. So we sold 83.5% of every property that came onto the market last year. Property we took on. The average was 69%, so 14% better than the average the rest of the businesses, which is pretty good. In Wokingham, we're blessed with some decent businesses that operate in that town. The worst was 39%. So for every property they took on, they only managed to sell just under 40% of them.
Wow. And so to put that into context, there's always some properties which go onto the market and don't sell, people's plans change or whatever. So
yeah, exactly that. Yeah.
So the average being 69%, we're at 83%, and then the worst business
is at 40%. Just under 40%.
Just under 40%.
40%.
So that business, for every 100 properties they put onto the market, 37 of them only get sold.
Yeah, 39. Yeah, exactly that. Not even exchanged.
39.
Okay. Yeah, exactly that.
Whereas for every 100 properties we put on the market, 83 of them
sell. 83. Yeah, exactly that. So, interestingly, the worst agent culprit, won't name names, changed prices. So what I looked at here was how many properties or how many reductions needed to happen or to sell those properties in the first place. So from their original listing, needed to reduce before they sold. Yeah, and that as a percentage. So I thought that's a good percentage to look at because we talk about it a lot when we go out and value properties. There's an inherent problem of overvaluing to win business. We aren't obviously targeted like that because it's just the two of us, but a lot of businesses are targeted purely on KPI generation, so key performance indicators, to be able to list as many properties as they can. Now, the challenge with that is that sometimes they're listed at too high a price just to win the business. Again, looking at the stats. So looking at the best estate agent in Wokingham for that, so we only needed to reduce 24.2%, which in my view is still quite a big number anyway, but we did go through quite a tough end to last year with the interest rates, and unfortunately prices did need to align as the markets shifted with regards to interest rates. The average out of the next 8 were 48%, so basically they needed to list everything they listed. They reduced 50% of everything they took onto the market.
So as an average in Wokingham, you're saying for every property that comes to the market, 50% of them get reduced in price?
Yeah.
So on average, if you're a homeowner in Wokingham listing your property with the average agent, there's a 50% likelihood
that you'll need to reduce your price. Exactly that. And the worst reduced 71%. Of all of their listings. And interestingly, they were the same agent that was also had the worst conversion rate on selling, which shows that they listed really, really, really high to win the business. They could never sell them because they overpromised. And then they ended up needing to reduce 71% to still not sell them in the end.
71% of price reductions is huge, isn't it?
Massive. And absolutely huge.
I know we're always talking to people about getting the price right from the start, and it's not always possible. No one can get it right every single time 100%. It's just not possible. But to reduce 71% of your properties,
it's huge.
Clearly there's something fundamentally wrong with that business model, right?
Absolutely right. And they're in the top 10 businesses in Wokingham. That's worrying. So anyway, then I thought I'd break it down even more and look at Okay, so where are we sitting with regards to average asking prices versus average sold subject to contract prices? So what they list at versus what they sell at. And then I've looked at how many came onto the market last year versus how many actually ended up exchanging contracts. Because when you're a seller, you put your house onto the market to move. Generally speaking, you don't go, I'm going to put it on and then not move, because you go through the hassle of any decorating work that you've wanted to do, any home improvements, tidying it, people coming around to view, all of that sort of stuff. So you don't do it just to show off your house.
No.
You do it to move, right?
And you've got to deal with us, we've got to be going around taking videos, it's a whole thing. You put your property on the market to sell it,
Exactly right, exactly right. So, interesting numbers. Average instructed price for all properties coming onto the market in the last year was £592,000. Now, what we've looked at is the RG40 and RG41 areas, so predominantly Wokingham. Then the average sold subject to contract price was £547,000. So circa £45,000 difference, if my maths is correct. No, it's not, but it's going to be somewhere around that. Let's just call it a cool 50 grand. So you needed to reduce your property by up to £50,000 to sell it.
Wow. So you're saying the average property price listed in Wokingham was about £590?
£590, yeah.
But the average sale price is about £540?
£547, yes, so give or take. Yeah.
So the average person putting their property on the market at, let's say, 600 grand,
yeah,
they're probably selling it for about
£550
on average.
Yeah. Now, when you list a house online as sellers, because we know we have this conversation all the time, you list your property at 600, you're thinking, okay, be nice to get 600, but I'm okay with 580 plus. You're not thinking 550, because you're not.
And don't we see this all the time when a property is overvalued, say at 600k, for example?
Yeah.
They go through a price reduction, maybe they go for a change of agent, and it takes them 12 months to get to 550, 50 grand below where they were. Yeah. And they've wasted time, they've wasted energy, and all of that stuff just from getting it wrong at the beginning.
Yeah, and we were talking about a house this morning, which I spotted, which I was like, oh, I quite like that. It started off life, and I can't afford it just before we start talking numbers.
He's been talking about this house all morning.
All morning. So it started off life last year in June at £1.2 million. Now, I'm nowhere near that. I can't even afford the price it's come down to now, but it's had one price reduction. Second price reduction today is listed at offers in excess of 900,000. A cool £300,000 difference from when it was first listed. Now, June last year wasn't an easy market because interest rates were starting to increase and increase and increase. And I just thought, wow, £300,000. That's not like a small amount of money.
No.
As percentage terms, that's huge as well. So anyway, just from a stat point, that was an interesting one that we observed earlier. And again, probably from an agent that sits in that top sort of 3 or 4 in the town as being what you would consider as the best out there. So just wanted to share some stats, and I've mentioned earlier quickly about listed houses, so ones that go to the market to be instructed, versus actually exchanging contracts. Yeah, and again, we've looked at RG40, looked at RG41, we've looked for the whole calendar year as best as I could break it down. So there were 2,109 instructed properties last year. Yeah. Okay. How many do you think? Oh no, you know the number. How many do you think exchanged? But I can tell you that 969 exchanged contracts out of the 2,100. So 45% of the people that put their property onto the market last year actually exchanged contracts.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which is crazy when you think about it, isn't it? So you think of, for every 100 properties you see come on Rightmove, 45 of them actually go on to exchange contracts.
Yeah, crazy.
And
absolutely.
As we just said, people put their house on the market to move,
yeah,
and then 45% of them are actually going on to do.
And I did our stats that 85% of them that we took onto the market exchanged contracts.
We say it all the time, don't we? We're here not to hit targets, not to keep bosses happy.
No.
to help people move.
To give the right advice. And that often means that we don't, unfortunately, win the business on the first opportunity, because we go out and tell someone 550, they get told 600, they get told 600 with a slightly lower fee, and they think, okay, well, I'm saving money there and making more money. And then 12 months later, they sell for a lot less than we had told them. So it's unfortunately quite a common thing. So just also to add into those stats, I think it's very stat heavy this, but I think it's a really important conversation to have, especially with the changing market, is that in RG40 and RG41 again, we achieved 98% of our asking price. Now that's a massive number compared to some of the other agents that are out there. Mm-hmm. But I think what the key bit for me was when I think of a seller and their journey to be able to sell a house, this selling a house is not the exciting bit, right? Going out and viewing the next house is totally the bit that people get most excited about. So you don't really want to have your property on the market for longer than you need to, with people constantly traipsing through the door. We sell our house 31 days faster, our houses, our properties that we take on, 31 days faster than the average estate agent that covers Wokingham. A whole month quicker.
And we get, on average, 98% of our initial asking price.
Exactly.
Which takes into account any reductions which have to be made, which, as we've established, don't often happen. Mm-hmm. But so all of these stats point that we actually give people the right advice from the outset, get them moved 31 days faster.
Absolutely.
To enable them to then go shopping for their next house.
Exactly that.
So I think that's really interesting, actually, to look at that data, which is independent.
Yeah, we haven't made this up. I mean, that'd be great. We would put an extra couple of percent on if we had, but this is independent data.
And also, it gives us something to work from. We don't want to be reducing anyone's price.
No. We
want to be selling properties. We don't want any of our properties to be on the market for more than a month, do we?
Agreed, totally agreed.
Because I think anyone who's on the market for more than 6 weeks, you've got that crunch time to get your house sold.
Yeah.
So these stats, they act as a useful way for us to benchmark our progress and also see that what we're doing in relation to the local market is really working for our clients.
Absolutely right. Now, there's also a couple of key things. There's a review of what the market looks like at the moment. I've spoken a lot about what's happened over the past year. We had some challenging times last year without going into it too much, interest rates, all of the stuff that happens with that. We've seen some stability over the past couple of months, which has provided people with much more reassurance that they are now in a more confident market, maybe not completely comfortable with how much it's costing them, because you can still borrow the amount of money that you're able to when interest rates are 1%, but it's the repayments on a monthly basis which are the bit that makes people uncomfortable. So what I wanted to just give our guide on a little bit better is that buyer demand is better than it was at the end of last year.
We've certainly seen an uptick, haven't we, in the new year? We've seen mortgage rates which came down early January, and they've more or less stayed where they are. Mm-hmm. And I think now coming into that busy March period, we're going to see a stable year on prices, as we've been saying to everyone, but a market which people can move in.
Absolutely right, and you never know with the hopeful news over the next couple of months, if we can be as optimistic to think that if inflation continues to drop, that we might see a Bank of England base rate change. You never know, you might see them come down a little bit more, but I don't think it's going to be a mass of reduction. I think we're going to see a very stable market for the next year. So I think the key bit is that this doesn't necessarily mean we're out of the woods. Like, the market is still tougher than it was when interest rates were 1%, and we still need to be cautious not to overvalue. But I also think that buyers are also cautious not to overpay. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where it comes into it as well.
Yeah. And then, so that's our job, to help people meet in the middle.
Absolutely.
We're seeing so many properties come onto the market for too much money. Yeah. They're priced as if interest rates are still 1%.
Absolutely right.
And interest rates are not 1% anymore.
Yeah.
So the market is fine. You've just got to get it right now.
Yeah, absolutely right.
From the beginning.
And that's purely the last point I was thinking of. The advice to sellers at the moment is price your property right. So we have a very unique test and measure process which no one really adopts. If you want to know more, give us a call. We'd love to talk you through it. But it gives us an opportunity to test where the buyer sees the price. And for everybody at the moment who's looking to sell their property, whilst we hope that the figure's here, buyer's interest may see it here. So just being able to balance that out more accurately before you go online, because once you've done it, you've imprinted straight away. And the last thing you want to be doing is looking to reduce to find that buyer, because the buyer perception is that they're going to become, oh, how much less will you take? You don't want to be in that
What's wrong
boat.
with it? Why is it been there?
Exactly.
Reduce the price. No one else wants it. Why should I buy it?
Oh, it's been on the market for 8 weeks, come down 3 times. It's now down to this. How much more will they take off? Well, no, don't really want to take any more off. So there was some really interesting stats that I picked up since last night and into this morning, which I thought would be really crucial for you as either a buyer or a seller to look at and be interested to know a little bit more about. But as always with Matt and I, it's give us a call. Like we're here to help everybody. So if there's an opportunity where you're looking to maybe dip your toe into the market, thinking about moving later on this year, just give us a call, understand what our thoughts are on it. We're on the pulse, as you can see with the numbers, so we're pretty clued up on when the right time to be able to do it is. We feel really confident about a better market 2024, certainly better than 2023, or the last part of it. But yeah,
it's going to be great. We're going to help people move this year. We're
Yeah.
looking forward to it. The year's started well.
Yeah.
Are you all statted out now?
I'm all started out now.
I'm all
That's
statted
enough.
out. We'll link for 20EA data if you're interested to look at it. It's completely independent, so we haven't made this up. We'll do more of these. As always, fire your questions in the comments below, and we'll see you in the next one.